Let's talk about books, shall we? Today we're going to talk about all the books that I read in 2024, which isn't a lot. I read 13 books this year. 13 books. One of them not actually being a book. I don't think it's a book. I don't even know if it's out in physical form. We'll get there. I did not reach my reading goal this year. My reading goal this year was like 27 books, which also may not seem like a lot to a lot of people, but to me that's a lot because I'm a relatively new reader, I would say. So yeah, I mean, I didn't reach my reading goal, but I did read a lot of books that I enjoyed. So let's just start. I think we're gonna start with the one that I don't have right now, which is Icebreaker. I don't have it right now because I gave it to my friend Sina so she could read it, but I didn't realize that she actually took it because in my head she wasn't gonna read it, but I said she could. Not that I didn't want her to take it, I was looking for it and then I forgot that I gave it to her. So yeah, I gave Icebreaker a 4.5 stars because I really liked the book. And I don't understand why people hate on it so much. I guess it's funny, but I feel like it's not just that. There's a lot that goes on in that book, and I just really liked the two main characters. So that was the first book that I read this year. The second book, I should have put them. Wait a second, give me a minute. The second book I read this year was Milk and Honey, which is a really popular poetry book. It used to be on Tumblr back in the day, I think. I'm not sure. I wasn't really a big Tumblr user. And I give this one 5 stars. I mean, it's really quick, like little poems that you can read, and I just loved every single one of them. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking. I will not be talking about books that you probably haven't read because I read a lot of popular books. Like I said, I'm a new reader, so but I really recommend this one. It's a really good poetry book. Even if you're not into poetry, this one's really good. It's popular for a reason. The second book I read was this one called When in Rome by Sarah Adams. Now, I have issues with this book because this book is what caused my reading slump, which went from like February to maybe July. So yeah, I was like more than halfway through this book and I DNF'd it because I wasn't liking where it was going. This is basically, she's a pop star and he's like a baker and she's like super popular and whatever, and he's very like introverted and grumpy, I would say maybe. And I just didn't love it. Like I felt like it was the same thing over and over again. Like there was not much romance happening, and I had a lot of expectations going in because I knew a lot of people liked this book, and it just did not do it for me. I gave it a 3.75 stars, which is still a good rating for me, but it was just nothing groundbreaking. I was just expecting a lot more going in because I really liked the premise of her being a like really popular pop star and him being like this super preserved guy or whatever, and I just didn't love. And then I read a book that also didn't really help my reading slump. I read this one over the summer, which is Wildfire by Hannah Grace, which is the second book in the Maple Hills series, and I did enjoy it, but I just felt like it lost itself in the middle. Like it could have been a lot shorter. I did like the first one better than this one. I mean, I liked the two main characters. I think they're also really interesting. I just think it could have been shorter. Kind of lost me there for a bit, but I did enjoy it nonetheless. I think I gave this 3.75 or something. I did enjoy it, but not as much as I thought I would because I loved the first one. So yeah. And then I read, I think this was my first 5 stars of the poetry book, but does that count? I don't know. I read If He Had Been With Me, which is a tragic book. This is a friends to lovers book. It's really sad. Really, really, really sad book. But I just loved it, and it was really fast paced, and I did not think I would like it as much. I had zero expectations going into this book because I just picked it out of the bookstore because I thought it was cute. I had heard people talk about it, but I did not know much going in. It is Friends to Lovers, and I think it's past and present perspective. I could be wrong. I don't remember much, but I do remember it being really sad. You kind of expect the ending, you just don't expect it to end it the way it did. At least I didn't, because the book starts off with the ending, but it doesn't tell you what really happened. So this entire time you just want to know what happened exactly. So yeah, it's a really good book. I gave this one 5 stars. It's really, really great. And then the second one took me a while to finish. This is the second book in this series. It's called If Only I Had Told Her. This one was a little too much for me. This one was a little too sad for me. I couldn't get through it at some point because it was too heavy, in my opinion. And usually I'm fine with reading stuff like that. Like, trigger warning, she does unalive herself or try to unalive herself. Spoiler and trigger warning. And there's just so many like heavy subjects. This talks about a lot about grief and stuff, and I just found it really hard to read. So I ended up giving this, I think, a 3.75 because I did really like it, but it just was really hard for me to finish it because it's just heavy subjects, you know. But I did really enjoy it, and I do love both of these characters. It's the story of Finn and what's her name? Autumn. And they're like childhood best friends, and they grow up together, they live next to each other, and then something tragic happens. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk too much about it because I do think you should read this one. This, maybe, I mean, sure, but I think this one's definitely better. And then I read the book that I anticipated, that I was waiting for since last year, which was Nothing Like the Movies. I'm so upset because I bought the US version of Better Than the Movies. So this one is smaller because this is like the UK version or the European version. So now they look weird on my bookshelf, but that's just me being picky. I loved this book so much. This book, I don't know why people hate on it so much. I honestly love it. I love Liz and Wes. So this is, for those of you that don't know, this is a sequel of Better Than the Movies. And it follows Liz and Wes through college. Also, this came out like October 1st, and I did not have the book because mine, for some reason, was delayed, whilst everyone else had their book, and I didn't. So what did I do? I bought the audiobook, and the audiobook is so good. Charlie Bushnell, I don't know, did such a great job voicing Wes Bennett. Loved it. And honestly, I don't get the hate on this book. Yes, they broke up, but like, she kind of had to break them up for it to be a second book. And everybody was hating on Liz, saying she was dramatic, and they didn't like that she was all of a sudden didn't love anymore. But to me, it made sense. And I did love Liz, and I think she had her reasons to act the way she did. And I just fell in love with Wes Bennett even more. Oh my god, and I also read the bonus chapter she put online a couple days ago. Oh, so good. So the fact that, I don't want to spoil it, but like, spoiler, they get married in Vegas. Like, that's so good. Oh, and another thing I loved, I knew that it was gonna be there because last year I saw the playlist she had already created for Nothing Like the Movies, but I didn't know that it was 2 songs. So basically there's a playlist. I highlighted 2 songs, which are Heaven Angel by The Driver Era and Feel You Now, also by The Driver Era. And I was so shocked because in my head, I'm the only one that knows that they exist, which isn't true, obviously, but I was so happy to see that they were on here, and I just love them so much. So I screamed a little when I heard Charlie say, Heaven Angel was such an underrated bop. So this is 5 stars for me. I don't know if I said it, but I did really love this book, and I don't get the hate on the book. This one was another one of my favorites. This is the 3rd book in the Maple Hills series. It's called Daydream. It's Henry and Hallie's story, and I had 0 expectations for this one. Wasn't expecting it to be this good. I knew Henry was such a great character because Henry was in the first. I don't remember him being a lot in the 2nd book, but I remember him being in the first one, and he was just such a nice guy. And in this book, Holly is also such a great character, and both of them together, they have so much chemistry, and they communicate everything. They have such good communication skills. Like, every problem they have, they will talk about it and resolve their problems instead of just like ghosting each other or not talking about it or whatever. I want to have a relationship like Holly and Henry. Like, their relationship is so good. I highly recommend it. Obviously, again, this has smut in it. This has, like, I think 3 chapters of smut, so a lot less than the other 2 in the series. Like I said, for the other 2, there's a story besides the smut, so yeah, I really love this one. I don't know if it's the best one in the series. I can't decide between the first one and the 3rd one, but I'm probably gonna have to say the 3rd one. But maybe it'll change, I don't know. And then the next book I read was Powerless, and I'm actually really proud of me because this book is thick. Like, it's not as thick as Binding 13. I got Binding 13 for Christmas, but this one's still thick. I think it's like 500-ish pages. I really like this book. Unfortunately, I spoiled myself for this book because I was, at a bookstore and I saw Reckless, which is the 2nd book in the series. And for some reason I picked it up and I read the back. And there was a huge spoiler. But honestly, she did what I, in my head, was telling her to do the whole time. She did exactly what I wanted her to do, and I was happy with it. I just think it lost me there for a second at the end. I think it was dragged on too much, but I did really enjoy the 2 main characters, and just the entire world building stuff was really cool. This was also like the first romantasy book I've ever read, so I really enjoyed it. I think I gave this a 4.5 or 4 stars. I don't remember. I need to check my Fable. But yeah, this was really good. I love Kai, I love Peyton, and I'm really excited to read the 2nd book. Also, tell me if I should read the novella in between, because I think it's called Powerful, and I've heard a lot of people say that it's really useless and they didn't like it. So tell me if I should still read the novella or just skip it and directly read Reckless, because I don't know. This book, Call It What You Want. This is for all the girlies that have been in a situationship or have had something that was nothing in a way. I needed this book in the beginning of the year. I should have read this in January, but I didn't. It's fine. I really like this book. It's about a situationship, or for me that was clearly a relationship, but for the guy it wasn't. So yeah, I really did not like the male main character. He really pissed me off, and I just didn't understand his actions. Like, I understood that he had issues, but he also did like nothing to change that. Like, he knew he had issues and he didn't like the way he was acting, but then he did nothing to change that. So, and I just felt like the ending was a little dragged on. Like, it could have been shorter, and it's a pretty short book. Like, I think there's 300-ish pages. It's not a thick book, but it could have been shorter because I felt like it was just repeating itself, well, like a situationship would. But yeah, I gave this one 3.75, I think, because I really didn't like the main character, but I did really connect to Sloane and her story of, like, sometimes I wanted to tell her, yo, let him go, move on, but at the same time I related to her because I've been in that position and I know what it feels like. So I don't know. Really good book though. And then the last 2 books I read in 2024. Oh wait, no, I skipped. I forgot to mention the book that isn't actually a physical book, but I forget what it's called, but it's like, I think it's a novella between Nothing Like the Movies and Better Than the Movies, or no, between Better Than the Movies and Nothing Like the Movies. I forget what it's called. I don't remember what it's about, if I'm being honest, but on Fable, I said that I read that and it summed up to 13 books, even though I read 12, I think. Because I don't count that one as a book, so I'll put it on the screen. But I forgot what it's about, and I forgot what it's called. But it's about Wes and Liz. What happens in the book? I don't know. So yeah. The next book I read is another one of my favorites this year, was The Deal. I was really loving hockey romances, and I'm still loving them because I just started another one. But this one is a really popular book from the Off-Campus series. It's the first one in the series, and it's about Hannah and Garrett's relationship. They're both in college, and I think she's studying music and he's a hockey player. I don't know what he's majoring in, I think business or something. Don't ask me. He wants her to tutor him, but she doesn't want to. So it's kind of enemies to lovers. I don't know. It gave major Nathan and Haley vibes. If you've seen One Tree Hill, you know what I'm talking about. Except hockey and not basketball. But yeah, I really love their relationship. Also, again, it has fun in it. But I think you should read it nonetheless, even if it has fun. Unless you're like really uncomfortable with reading stuff like that. I don't mind. It's whatever. But again, there's a lot more to it than just fun. And I think everyone should read this. It's a really good book. Really popular for a reason. It's really good. Yeah. And I didn't think I would like Garrett Graham as much as I do because he seemed like he was an asshole in the beginning. So, yeah. And the second book in that series was the last book I read this year, actually, which is The Mistake. And I really loved it. I had low expectations going in because I talked to a couple of friends of mine and just some TikToks about this book, and everybody said it was either their least favorite in the series or just not as good as the first one, which I understand. It's not as good as the first one, but it's still like pretty good, and I still enjoyed both of these characters. I think you can read them as standalones, just like the Maple Hills ones, but it's just a lot more fun if you read them in order, because some characters of this book are in this book, and it's just fun. I gave this one a 4.75 just because Logan, our main character, has a huge crush on Hannah from The Deal. And she's clearly dating Garrett, and Logan is Derek's best friend. So that Garrett. So that threw me off a little bit, and I also didn't like that Hannah sort of explained to him that he did not have a crush on Hannah. He just wanted what Hannah and Garrett had. That was just a little weird to me. But yeah, I still enjoyed this nonetheless. I gave this a 4.75, and this one I gave it upright stars because it's just that good. And yeah, those are all the books I read this year. Like I said, not a lot. To me, that's a lot. That's a new record. I'm excited to read a lot more books next year. I'm currently reading what is it called? The Score, which is the 3rd book in this series. Goal for next year, finish the series. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Tell me your opinions on all the books I read. Please be nice. And yeah, I will see you guys soon, hopefully.